Course 1, today's lesson first tells us about the review for all the different operations we've learned, but using decimals, right? Decimal arithmetic or decimal math is really the same as regular whole number math. It's just you have to keep track of the decimal point. So they're going to have a chart for us on page 277, I think it is, that reminds us of all the rules. Let me go over them one more time for you, though, to help you make sense of it all. We subtract or add, very similar to the way we would without decimals, but with decimals we just keep track of this point right here. The decimal points need to line up with adding and subtract, and you can drop it right away in your answer so you keep track of it, whereas it won't do that always in multiplication. So we subtract this much like 21 minus 14, which would be 7, but you drop your decimal point straight down, right? You can show the leading 0. You could even add a 0 here if you'd like. Those are not worth any value, but they may be needed later to hold a place value. Where we have 21 times 14, you multiply the way we would normally multiply, and why don't we do that first? Then we add a 0 to multiply the second if there's this 2-digit factor. Then you add like we always do. The kicker comes at the end, right? What do we have to remember with the decimal? You need to count 1, 2 decimal places in our answer. From here to 1, 2 to here. And then we'll erase this guy. And that's where the decimal belongs. The answer is 2 94 hundredths, right? Lastly, when you divide, we like to use whole numbers from the get-go. Obviously, you're not lining up decimal places, you're not counting decimal places, but we will be moving decimal places. We'll multiply everything by 10. What that means is we're going to move this over, and remember to also move it up in our quotient to go right there. I'll erase this so it doesn't confuse us. So we multiplied everything by 10. We went over, up. And now there's a decimal point there, and our decimal point moved to here and here. Now we have two whole numbers, especially that divisor. We want to make a whole number. This doesn't have to be, but this one is crucial so that it makes more sense. You could still get the right answer, but you'd have to mess with your decimals more. So let's just move it once over, and then we've got a whole number in this case for both. Then 7 goes into 21 3 times, right? 3 is still the answer if I was dividing 2.1 by 7. The answer is still 3, but that's harder to find than this one was. Okay, so that was basically a summary of this chart here. The decimal arithmetic reminders on page 277. Lastly, we have a reminder that fractions are simplified in a couple of ways. We can reduce them to lowest terms, or we can convert them when they are improper to make them proper. Oftentimes that means mixed numbers, right? If I have to simplify 4/6 combined with 5/6, what that means is let's add them together. 4/6 plus 5/6. We have common denominators, so we can go ahead and do it. You can see the issue, right? 9/6 needs to be simplified in both ways. Let's start by simplifying it by converting it to be proper. 9 divided by 6 is really what this is saying, and that's what's going to get us to our proper mixed number. 6 fits in once, leaving us with a remainder 3 that we put over the 6 as a fraction. This went over that, and that all goes here, remember? So 9/6 is the same as saying 1 3/6, but we're not done. Why? Because this right here can still get reduced down to a half. So our real answer, after simplifying both ways in this case and adding, we have 1 and a half. Fair? So we want to practice that we can do this. I will get you the decimals chart, I think, so you don't have to do letter B. But carry out letter A for each and show your work as a review and practice of how we do decimal arithmetic. Then pick one of the simplify questions C through E, and that's it. Do those two, please. Thank you.